Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 9 of the Sajin Photography Podcast. I am your host, Jason Teale, and today is my birthday. And, well, I thought I would do a quick little episode here just to sort of pat myself on the back for being awesome. No, not quite, but I thought it was overdue for a episode, and I think that on this auspicious occasion, being my birthday, I thought, well, you know what? I've got some time today before the festivities kick off, which, if you know me, I'm not big on birthday celebrations, but by festivities, I mean I'm about probably 15 minutes away from grabbing my film camera and taking a walk to get some coffee. And at 46 years old, that's pretty much the extent of the festivities that I get up to outside of going out for dinner with my lovely wife and just marking the occasion as another year in the books. So that's pretty much what I've got planned. But what I sort of want to just, talk a little bit about today is just, being thankful for this time of year. We're getting into the spring season here in Korea, which is by far one of my favorite times. It's a toss-up between fall and spring, and it's similar, kind of the reasons why I like it. It's because of the cherry blossoms. And I know that that's not really like a manly thing, like I like blossoms, man. But part of me as a photographer really enjoys this sort of, new birth, I guess, maybe, a revitalization perhaps of, the year. So like we've gone through, you can't even call it cold winter with El Nino this year, but for photography, especially here in Korea, the winter season holds not a lot of great photographic opportunities, as places such as Canada, where it gets cold, there's snow, there's beautiful drifts of the white stuff blowing through the breeze and freezing your nuts off. We don't get that here in Korea. What we do get is a few months of just dead grass, dead trees, and a bit of pollution. And that sounds like I'm running the country of Korea down, but people just sort of accept it here. Like if you are up in Gangwon-do, yeah, there's probably snow, and there is a decent amount of snow this year. I am not in Gangwon-do. I am in the industrial core of Korea, known as Ulsan. So what we do get is just nothingness. So by the time spring rolls around, we have this pop of color. Stuff starts coming back. Flowers are planted. And that's sort of what I love about, not just Ulsan, but the rest of the country itself, is they really take pride in planting more flowers. They make these beautiful spaces, and the country itself just seems to come alive. And no more so than this coming weekend, where all across the country, if you're a photographer, there's going to be festivals galore. And I will say, though, as a photographer, I'm not a big fan of the festivals. I'm sorry, but hordes of people pushing and shoving, and if you're trying to line up a good shot, well, good luck with that. Because, I have to give credit to the Korean photographers. They know their stuff, but they also come prepared, almost overly prepared. And by that I mean is, if you look at some of my shots from Tongdosa, now in Tongdosa and around, there's several other like famous trees, but the one closest to me is Tongdosa. There were 50 photographers with the best gear, ladders, like huge tripods that can extend up over 6 feet. The one guy I saw, he had a, like the safari lenses, like one of those 700 or larger, massive cannons. Well, it was a cannon, but and keep in mind, we're not shooting cheetahs here. We're not photographing lions on the Serengeti, where you camp out for days, stalking your subject and waiting, those little marmot type creatures are like thinking you're one of them. No, it's nothing like that. These guys will drive 10 minutes like I did to Tongdosa Temple, pay for parking, grab their gear, and then they just basically bring this bazooka of a lens to photograph a plum blossom. And I'm not running them down. If you've got the gear, shit, man, like go for it. But and in a sense, to me, in my mind, it's a little bit overkill. But the reason that they're doing that, the reason they have these massive, like safari lenses for, photographing cheetahs, is because there are so many people at these events that you will be amazed at how difficult it is to just move around, let alone get close to your subject. And again, I'm not insulting the people, but you have to remember that this is not the Mona Lisa, okay? This is not some ancient artifact from the Sheila dynasty that you will only get to see once in your lifetime, and you paid an exorbitant amount of money, so you have to get... No. This is the same tree that has blossomed there every single year for 100 years or more. And I think it's just the Instagram or just the mentality of the culture here that people have to take a picture in front of it. And as a photographer, you have to be mindful of this. It's not, as I said before, like it's not your shoot. You're not there being paid to photograph that tree. You're just there with your gear to get a good photo. So you have to balance this. And how I balance it is I just don't go to the festivals where I know I'm going to get pissed off, where I know I'm going to say something that I shouldn't when the, middle-aged married woman steps in front of my camera, knowing full well I'm trying to get a picture, and doing so because she knows that I have probably carefully chosen the location and she wants to get a good shot because she thinks that I'm some sort of famous photographer. And if that sounds like I'm exaggerating, this is something that you experience if you go to these events. They will look at you. They'll say, that guy's got a nice camera. He's a foreigner. Oh, he must be like doing something special. Let's get in front of his camera. Not because they want you to take their picture. It's because they know that you've selected this site, so it, quote unquote, must be good. So again, I think that I just am not going to go to the festivals, but it's a good marker as to when the peak season is, because actually, to tell you the honest truth, for blossoms, the peak season was supposed to be this past weekend and finished up kind of today. But due to the cold weather, nothing was blossomed at that time. So they're pushing it all to the weekend now. So I think it's going to be a crazy busy weekend. With that being said, last weekend, I was supposed to take my class to a special spot here in Ulsan, which is kind of the hill behind the MBC area. And it's a great spot for just general blossom pictures. But as fate would have it, nothing really blossomed. So I switched the location to the Jongsangpo Whale Village, which is an interesting spot. And I'm really happy that my students are so eager to participate in sort of these photo walks, because I do think that they are a great way to sort of experience photography with other photographers. As I said numerous times before, photography should be experienced with others. It is typically a lonely experience where you can go out by yourself and sort of experience this type of hobby. But I think for the most part, when you are around people who share that same, passion, then you can really sort of really be with that passion. As kind of weird as that means, or as weird as that sounds, it just means that, like, if you love, say, I don't know, I always think back to my dad. I always remember my father, who was really into shooting, and for the regular person, firearms and shooting, especially with the gun violence these days, you can't really talk about your passion for shooting firearms at the range, because someone's going to bring up about, oh yeah, well, are you a child killer or something like that? Because they're equating their knowledge of the mass shootings in America to what your passion is. And it's sort of the same thing. Like, if you have a passion for a very niche photography, maybe you're a street photographer or a fashion photographer, and the main bulk of your images are like young people, and they may think that you're some sort of creepy pervert. And you know you're not. You know the reasons why you're taking these photos, but the regular person will look at them and be like, oh yeah, you've got an Instagram full of, you know, young women in various poses on the street. You're a pervert. And this has, believe it or not, this has come up quite a bit. And, you know, no matter how many times photographers will explain their position, you know, it's not my cup of tea, but I understand their motivations. The regular person will kind of go on about how, you know, about permissions and stuff like that. And, you know, but the reason they're not really there to protect the subject, what they're doing is trying to label you as a dirty pervert. And I take offense to that when I hear it, because, you know, it's not as if they're like, oh yeah, that's my sister and how dare you. No, they're just trying to label you as a dirty pervert for their own, you know, they're going to pat themselves on the back. Are they going to do anything about it if they destroy your career? No, they just want to label you a dirty pervert. And you know who you're talking, you know. So with that being said, when you're around photographers who share that same passion, some of them are learning, some of them are maybe further along, it's a great experience. So that was really something that I enjoyed last weekend. The class got out to Zhongsangpo for a little bit. We wandered around the village, and if you haven't been out there, it's a odd collection of old recreated buildings. So it kind of feels like you're on a movie set, but they like something that I find really odd about these places, especially the Zhongsangpo Whale Village, is that they had this great idea. They said, let's make a retro styled village with, you know, down to the every single detail, laundry hanging on a line, everything. And then someone says, yeah, okay, let's do it. So period, you know, I'd say 1970s, early 80s, that sort of thing. Yep, perfect. What do we want to do next? Build a futuristic monorail that circles the park. Yeah. Why? Well, it's a monorail. Yeah. Does it go with the theme? No. Also, we need life-size whale statues. Why? Well, it's a whaling village. Yeah. But does it go with the theme? Not really, but we can just put them on the hill behind the village. Okay. And while we're at it, let's put a modern looking building and have it have like a, you know, multimedia 4D theater kind of thing. Why? Well, that's the thing now, 4D theaters. And this is sort of the mishmash of buildings that encompasses the whale village. So I really wish they would have stuck to sort of a traditional theme and made like a whole village that, you know, when you walk through the gates, you feel that you're, you know, back in that era, which to an extent it does, but it's also marred by the, you know, very existence of a monorail and a very large red building that, you know, is the entrance for the monorail. It just kind of, I don't know, like they should have just stuck with a central theme rather than just throwing whatever so it doesn't look like some sort of weird Lego creation. But that being said, my class had a great time, and I must admit, like I'm very happy with sort of the class and how much effort that they put into it. This has sort of been sort of like my revitalization because, you know, for a while I was getting a little bit, you know, as I've said in previous podcasts, like, you know, I've been shooting the same locations year after year and, you know, like also getting burnt out with sort of the lack of effort in the photographic community because, you know, there's a lot of people in the photo groups that just simply don't do anything. Like, you know, like there's hundreds of people in the group, but none of them post pictures, none of them comment. And when you try to do it, you get some you know, dickhead saying, oh, he enjoys the spotlight or something like that. The problem is that most of the time, people such as myself and other people, we're not trying to hog any sort of limelight, but we're trying to drum up as a community that's sort of shares photos and shares that same enthusiasm that you have when you know, go out on these photo walks. And so the photo class for me is sort of a refreshing thing because I get to see people's, excitement when they finally get a good photo, or when they finally figure out how to take the photo like they've seen in other places. To me, that's great. It's not about the limelight. It's not about the spotlight. It's not about any sort of paid gigs or whatever. It's mostly just about being around the energy of different artists and people who are approaching photography from a different angle. So that's sort of my thing on that. So wrapping things up, yeah, it's my birthday. I don't even know how old I am now. Let me think here for a second. How long ago was that? So I was 40 in 2018. So I'm 46. Yeah, I said that before. So I was right on the money. I don't know why. 46. Whew, I am 4 years away from 50. Outside of the bald head, gray hairs, and belly, I feel like I'm still in my 30s, which is kind of a scary thing. Photographically, yeah, like I think what we all need to do from time to time is just push ourselves. And I think that going back to sort of that like low point, I just wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't learning. I wasn't trying different locations. And again, going back to this class, like it's really sort of motivated me to try and get out more, to try and, just work on different things. And what I'm doing today is I have a film camera that was given to me by my neighbor, Mr. Brian Burton. It's a Rolly S35. And he basically just, when I was at home one time, he just called me over. He's always been like sort of like they're like my second family. So we always joke that Mrs. Burton was my other mother, and Mr. Burton sort of is now like my other father, basically. And when we were over there, he called me over, and he just brings out this immaculate leather-clad hard camera case, and he says, "Take this." And it was a complete Rolly camera system, lenses, even the original manual. It was all there. And so he worked for the Manitoba telephone system for many, many years. So my project today is I'm going to take a roll of film and I'm going to photograph some of the payphones that still linger around Ulsan. And, nobody uses them, unless they're hiding from the rain. So I'm going to try and take that and then just send them some pictures to say, like, I'm always thinking about these people. And just on a side note, use your photography for this kind of stuff. It's not about patting yourself on the back. It's not about winning awards. But going back to even the death of my father, I think I said this before, collect those images. Collect those images. Take pictures for people. Not about, bragging about whatever or anything like that. The whole purpose of this project is to challenge myself, but to say, hey, look, Mr. Burton, thank you for this gift. I'm using your camera. I remembered your passion for telephones. Like he had a whole antique switchboard in his basement for many years. And I said, you know what? Like, this is my sort of project to sort of keep you in my thoughts. And, like Mr. Burton's a classic old Canadian guy. He won't probably say too much, but I know that he's going to know that I'm not just sort of grabbing his shit and running away halfway across the world. Like, oh, I got a rollie. No. It's, I want him to know that it's in good hands. I'm taking care of it and I'm using it. So that's something I'm going to get up to today. And then as I said, I'm going to grab some coffee. I'm going to hit up a restaurant with my wife later. There's a new Canadian-owned restaurant in the city. And again, just as a final note before I go, I'm going out there because another Canadian put this on my radar. And the thing is that you got to help support these people. And I know people may take a pot shot saying, well, don't you do that? You force them to pay an advertising fee. It's not really like that with Wilson Online. The point is that as a community that I'm trying to build, we work together. The advertising fee is more or less just a way to sort of keep the people that are trying to benefit, from abusing the good nature. But with that being said, take care. thank you all for the messages that's been pouring in as I've been doing this. And we'll talk at you very, very soon. Keep on shooting.